Maybe. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of From the Chair, where inclusion matters. Tonight, our guest is Triple M, not to be confused with Triple H, because that's just the wrong promotion and a ran-down promotion anyway. We've got the good Triple M. So we'll be back in just a couple of minutes to start our show. Okay, there we go. There we go. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome Triple M, not to be confused with Triple H, and at least we can see all the hosts than just his knobby old forehead today. We'll be back.
He's ahead of the game, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, you know what? I don't think we're going to go through a full entrance. We're just going to let you start here in like 30 seconds because I think the knobby old forehead is getting grumpy.
No, not at all. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Welcome to our guest, Triple M.
How you doing, Jens?
Hey, host, can you at least show us a little bit more of your eyes instead of that balding forehead of yours? I mean, I'm so tired of seeing that forehead.
Oh, come on. When you have a forehead that can be on, like, magazine covers, you got to show it sometime.
That's why Big Money Dodge is buying your. That's why Big Money Dodge is buying your podcast from you, dude.
Oh, come on now. I have yet to see paperwork. And Mr. Triple M, aren't you a lawyer? Could I maybe get your services to help me with
As a matter of fact, sir, I am one of the most prominent litigators. I write about the torts and get you into the litigation, and I'm always on top. And when it comes to Big Money Dodge, oh yes, he has stacks to throw around. But you know, we've been on similar tracks, and it's time these two trains cross. And I must say, our host has quite a lovely forehead, if I might say so myself. It looks like he dreams in 4K.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for having me on. It's a great pleasure and honor to be on your podcast, From the Chair. Thank you guys. You guys are up there in Washington, and I'm all the way down here in beautiful Southern California. Thank God there's no time difference, though.
Yeah, that's always an interesting thing when we have somebody from a different, time zone.
But yeah, we're just down here in Southern California, and I got to tell you, we're here to talk wrestling, so let's jump right into it. Just to give you a little bit of background myself, let me take the glasses off because it's back to Mike. My given name is Michael Mark Martinez. So Triple M and Michael Mark Martinez are essentially the same guy. It's just a little variation. So, I've kind of grown up with who I am. It's funny you mentioned not to be confused with Triple H. If I had to be honest, Triple H would be the first face on my Mount Rushmore. So I do take some inspiration from him. We were talking a little before the show about wrestlers we liked and we gravitated towards as kids. So I was like Roddy Piper, Macho Man Randy Savage. And I have to admit, it's a little astonishing to some of my family members that I am in the wrestling business because I come from a family of athletes. Okay. My uncles were a dynasty at Roosevelt High School in Boyle Heights. My brother swam, high diver, played football both ways. Even my little sister had 8 sacks her first season. Yeah, you thought the icebox was something. We used to call Josie the coffin because you didn't want to get up after. But me, I lettered in badminton. Yep, that's right. So, I had a little bit of that athleticism. I was the small one. I'm the runt of the litter, if you will. Even my little brother towers over me. But I was born with the gift of gab for some reason. So being a wrestling fan my whole life, growing up in Southern California, trying to go to shows and all that, it was always a dream to break into the business, to kind of get here. And before we continue on, I want to give a very special shout out to my nephew, Andrew. Hey, Andrew, I hope you're watching, bud. This show is all about inclusivity, correct?
Yes.
So my nephew, Andrew, he was born with spinal bifida. So he's been in a wheelchair his whole life. Other kids, they go to the park, run around, play. They go to Knott's Berry Farm or Disneyland and they get on the rides. Unfortunately, Andrew hasn't been able to kind of, get the most out of that experience. So we take Andrew to wrestling shows, and Andrew cuts out, man. It's the one place he can interact, feel like he's a part of the show. And he gets to let some of that aggression out, If he don't like you as a character, he's going to tell you where to go and how to get there. Let me tell you. So I just want to give a shout out to Andrew. Hope you're watching, baby.
And if you don't mind, I want to tell Andrew the motto that I live by because I think he'll get a lot from it. You make who you are. Your disability is only a part of who you are. Right? So never look at somebody by their disability. Look at them by the person that they are.
Amen. Amen. So I just want to take a moment to do that. As far as I actually like to ask you guys a question. I know I'm flipping the script a little bit. But what's the wrestling scene like up there in Washington?
Not so much in Washington, but a lot more in like Oregon. Up and down the I-5 corridor and stuff like that.
Okay, because like I said, we have promotions like Compton Mania, who is one of the biggest promotions that's growing in Los Angeles. Not only are they providing a wrestling show, but they're bringing community services to the wrestling show. So if you need health care, dental care, mental health care, they have food banks that come to the show. So you leave with fresh produce when you go home from the show. You have promotions like Relentless Pro Wrestling out of Orange County, who's bringing some of the hottest talent together in Southern California in Orange County. You have promotions like Traditional Wrestling Entertainment, OCCW, that are on the scene. You have promotions that are going to premiere like Squared Circle Society. So as far as Los Angeles and Orange counties go, wrestling's booming, baby. We have Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy in our backyard, who are actually hosting a show. I believe it's not this Thursday, but the following Thursday in Azusa, California. San Gabriel Valley, where I live in, kind of is dying for more wrestling. And thank you for Santino's Brothers for bringing it. But then we have an anomaly within the Southern California wrestling market. And that's the high desert. I'm talking Victorville, Hesperia, Apple Valley, all the way out to Barstow. And a few years back, I want to say they probably ran for 3 or 4 years, Destination 6 Wrestling was the spot to go in the high desert. people were traveling from down the hill, as we call it, the Los Angeles greater area, all the way to Barstow, California. And to kind of give you an idea for people that don't live in the area, to get to Las Vegas, you have to cross through Barstow coming from LA. So it's almost like a halfway point to Vegas, to give you an idea. We had talent coming from all around, the likes of Duke Lawrence, who has some prominence in the Las Vegas wrestling scene. Noah Anderson, who is now a big deal in the Las Vegas wrestling scene. Principe Leon, Drew Masters, Louis 54, Ronnie Angel, Aiden Way, Psycho Stu, who is a Knox Pro Academy alumni. He was trained by the Black Pearl, Gangrel, and Rikishi. So I had the privilege of being in this locker room all of a sudden. And to be fair, I didn't go to a school. I kind of talked my way into the business cutting a fan promo. And so, Destination 6 was the spot. So I ended up getting hired by Destination 6 on commentary. And, running commentary. Then I get elevated to ring announcer. And now Triple M is really becoming a character. And they gave me the honor of being their general manager up to them leaving to Illinois, which was a great honor. We had a lot of fun. But then they went to another opportunity in Illinois where that market desperately needed some fresh wrestling. And God bless them, they're doing great. They're having sellout shows, competing with some of the biggest high school football games in that area. And if you know that part of the country, high school football is a big thing. So then there's a vacuum left in the high desert. Destination 6 is left. So Joe Gonzalez, better known as Joe Money, who you guys have spoken with, myself and a few others started brainstorming. And we gave birth to Valor Pro Wrestling. And our first show was a sellout. We have a show coming up the 29th of this month, 92345, second attempt. Hold on. It's Triple M time, boys. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to properly introduce myself. My name is Triple M. I am the golden voice of professional wrestling in Southern California. And on April 29th, Valor Pro Wrestling presents 92345, second attempt. We have the bastard son of Las Vegas, Noah Anderson, taking on Divine Royalty, the God King. We have Aiden Way, who happens to be Southern California's bastard son, taking on Dreamy Drew. We have JF 3000 answering the TWE Championship Open Challenge and taking on the reigning, defending, undefeated, undisputed, reigning TWE champion, Inferno. The man is a fire within himself, and he hails from the Mecca of fitness. And I can go on down the list, but this is what it is. One of the biggest shows we're going to have, our second alley. Our name is Valor Pro Wrestling, and we're going to be hosted at VFW Hall 2924 in Hesperia, California. It's such a great thing, bringing the world of veterans and war heroes and wrestling. And if you guys know the history of wrestling, you know that 2 and 2 go together. How many VFW halls have you guys been to watch a good old wrestling show?
A lot.
A lot. So, and just to re-allude to the man, the myth, the legend known as Big Money Dodge, I'm going to tell you this. I'm a good lawyer, a damn good lawyer. But it's going to be a fight to keep your show. Because he's got stacks. But on top of that, he's got men. And oh, the men he has, like Boom Shasta, Jimmy Mayhem. And if he has made a bid on your show, that means it's profitable. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. But you guys got any questions? Would you like to pick Triple M's brain, the legal expertise he has?
Yes, we do. So, who were your wrestling heroes growing up?
Growing up, my wrestling heroes are Roddy Piper, the Macho Man Randy Savage, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho. A lot of those guys. I know Triple H is like the anomaly of the guys I like because he's a bigger dude. But to be fair, it was the physique I wish I always had. Every time I was flexing my little Mikey muscles in the mirror, I was dreaming I could be Triple H. And trust me, I drank all the damn milk I could. It turns out I'm lactose intolerant. But I actually had the pleasure of meeting Shawn Michaels. Real humble guy. Real humble guy. Paul London. I forgot Paul London on that list. A funny story with Paul London because he was incredible. I'm not the big guy. I'm not even the big guy in my household. All my kids are taller than me. I got to go, hey, come down here. I want to talk to you. So, I mean, for God's sakes, I'm 5'9" tall on my license. But Paul London, I think he could have done so much more in the WWE if they would have let him. I actually met Paul London about 13 years ago at a PWG show. And I got to chatting with him and talked to him after the show. And that's why I love indie shows so much, because you get to really interact with the talent, right? And we were talking, and I told him how big of a fan I was. He goes, why don't you try to break in? I was like, well, I don't know how. He's like, just go for it, man. And when you get there, just stay creative. Circle back 13 years later, I share a locker room with them at Compton Mania. And that's kind of a beautiful thing. And that kind of shows you how unique wrestling can be. Yes, I encourage you to get all the physical, proper training out of wrestling school you can get. Okay. But there are rarities in the business that people just see something in you. They can see the character you can be. And I'm not trying to be arrogant or boastful in any way. I actually am saying this with complete humility, because if it wasn't for a handful of people seeing a spark of talent or potential in me, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you guys having this interview. I'd probably still be shaking a sign on a corner for a tax place and then riding the Best Buy after to work the night shift. So if you have talent, let it shine. Let it shine, because it was a promo. It was a promo I cut for Psycho Stu and Primal going up for the Destination 6 titles, and then it was a phone call. And that phone call was from Chris Impact and Joe Money. And the first question was, who taught you how to do that? And my answers were simple. Roddy Piper, Ric Flair, and Paul Heyman. Studied them my whole life. Have you ever done commentary? Was the next question. I said, hell yeah, I've been doing commentary my whole life. I talk crap about people all the time. I sell cars for a living. All I do is commentary. And that's when the door opened and Triple M was truly born. And from there, you know, you get invited to other places. I mean, as general manager of Destination 6, we were invited to another promotion in Orange County because our Ultra Gen 6 champion at that time, Principe Leon, and as a matter of fact, give me a second, gentlemen, I have a little memorabilia to show you in accordance with this story. This is the title he held, the former Destination 6 Ultra Gen 6 Championship. The whole premise of this title, which is still an active title at Destination 6, but of course they revamped the belt, is there are no weight classes. There are no gender restrictions. If you have the heart of a champion, you may compete for this title. No matter who you are, no matter how you identify, it's for everybody. So I represented Principe Leon at his match at that other promotion. This belt was also held by Vito Fortelli. And if you haven't heard of Vito Fortelli, you need to get on the Google machine and look him up right after this interview, because he's one of the hottest rising stars in Southern California and making quite a name for himself in Mexico. And again, retouching on inclusivity. I'm here in pro wrestling, among others, because it's where we belong. Wrestling, when I was growing up around the crowd I grew up in high school, it was a niche that liked wrestling. If you liked wrestling and you weren't one of those people that were really into it, you were looked at as a nerd, a misfit, an outsider, someone who didn't belong. But guess what? All the misfits got together and we found wrestling as our core love. And that's the beautiful thing about all of professional wrestling. You can be who you are. You can be the character you were always born to be. Doesn't matter what you look like. Doesn't matter how you identify. It doesn't matter who you love. It doesn't matter your political party. It doesn't matter your religion or lack thereof. Wrestling is a place where everybody can come together. And it's a really cool scene. It's a really cool scene. Man, I shared locker rooms with the God King. I've shared locker rooms with Sean Black. All these great people. And you find out that at the end of it all, it's just like that Depeche Mode song. People are people, man. People are people. And that's just what we got to see. When two talent are working in the ring, they're talent. They're out there to perform. They're out there to give you what you came to see and tell a story and get you captivated the same you would if Leonardo DiCaprio was on the screen. The same you would for any of those Marvel movies. The only difference is it's right in front of you and you can shake that person's hand after. You can see the blood, sweat, and tears they put in the ring. And rest assured, these folks, they train and train and train and train to be at the peak of where they want to be. Guys like Chris Nasty, guys like CSJ Can't Stop Jamal, guys like Alan Breeze, okay? Guys like the Necro King. The Necro King is a special guy. Been injured multiple times. Still has the drive to get back in the ring and won't let anything stop him. Starting his own promotion in Squared Circle Society. I mean, wrestling is where dreams come true. If you have that drive, if you really want to reach out and grab it, if you want to touch, if you want to feel that same feeling every single time and then be able to look out at the crowd and see that you're doing your job right, don't let anybody tell you you can't. Don't let anybody tell you you're too small. Don't let anybody tell you you're too old. I'm 39 years old. I wanted to do this my whole life. I wrestled in backyards from age 15 until I broke into the business.
And for those who want to hear more about the Necro King, we actually interviewed him yesterday. So you could go to the From the Chair YouTube page and the Facebook page. YouTube, it's From the Chair with Nathan, and Facebook is just From the Chair podcast. And that full interview will be up on both of those pages.
And since we're speaking of my dear friend, the Necro King, Allow me to give you a fair warning, Necro. The sounds of pain are coming to Squared Circle Society. We have unfinished business with the religion, so say your prayers.
And before we go to the next question, you brought up Paul London. Shout out to Paul London being inducted to the Independent Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
You know, we were together on that show, Compton Mania, Where You From? And I believe that was the day before he was getting inducted. I got to tell you, Paul London, that's a great learning tree to sit under. Even if you don't have a chance to have a conversation with them, just watching him work, what he says, how he says it, when he says it. And I got to tell you, it was a very distinct honor because, mind you, I was in a neck brace that night. I know what you guys are thinking. Why am I not in the neck brace now if I'm injured? Well, there are many medical marvels that can be sought with the right amount of money. I have undergone a treatment, though it is a temporary solution. It was necessary for me to make this appearance here today. That said, I was in a neck brace, and Paul London decided to diagnose me. He said, in front of the whole crowd on a microphone, "I know how you hurt your neck. It was on your knees."
Ouch.
That was a pleasure and an honor. But I mean, yeah. And then like you have guys like Joe Money, or better known as his given name, Joe Gonzalez, one of the leaders of Valor Pro Wrestling. And I got to give a lot of credit to where I'm at in wrestling to Joe, because he's helped guide me along the way. When I told him I wanted to branch out and start trying to become a manager, first guy to give me pointers. First guy to tell me, hey, try to play it this way, coaching me, guiding me. And then he thought enough of me to keep me in the conversations for Valor Pro Wrestling, to allow me to be part of the creative process of Valor Pro Wrestling. And I got to tell you, growing up in the San Gabriel Valley, the east side of LA, it's not like it is in the movies, man. Unless you're watching, some real documentaries. I'm not saying it's the worst place in the world, but I'm not saying it's an easy ride either. There's some rough spots. And pro wrestling is an outlet where people can go to, escape from the reality of where they're at for a little bit, but also give you the opportunity to take yourself out of that situation. I'd be lying if I would tell you that I probably wasn't better off watching Stone Cold Steve Austin feud with The Rock. I wasn't better off running from one living room to the other during the Monday Night Wars. Because of wrestling, I missed out on making a lot of really stupid decisions, and I'm very grateful for it. Not saying anything bad about people that have made poor decisions. As an attorney, I'm here for you.
So before we get too far, I do want to say hello to Doug, who was on earlier.
How you doing, Doug?
So, Pat, do you have the next question?
What was it like being part of Valor Pro Wrestling?
Being part of Valor Pro Wrestling is awesome. It's a whole different chapter of my wrestling career, where it's starting to give me a better understanding of how shows really run. Being part of a creative team, being part of an organization as a whole, and being the voice of that organization. Excuse me. It's a distinct honor because, to be honest with you, I didn't know where I was going after Destination 6 left. And I'm very grateful that Valor Pro Wrestling is in existence. I'm a father, so taking my kids to the show is awesome. They get a whole different experience because they get to run around and play in the ring. They get to hang out with the wrestlers. Being a fundamental part of the organization is very rewarding. Making sure the talent gets what they need, making sure everybody's safe, taken care of, fed, making sure they have the hydration they need. If anything comes up, we deal with it. Also contacting talent and basically bringing the show together. And, like I said, we have 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, second attempt coming up on April 29th. It's going to be a spectacular show. We have Drew Masters on the card, taking on legend, wait for it, Daryl. And these guys, Drew Masters, man, if you haven't seen Drew Masters wrestle before, you either need to look him up on the interweb or come out and see us April 29th, because he is exciting. He is like Goku comes to life. Okay, he loves anime, great with the kids, very exciting fella. He's a real darling in the locker room. And then you've got Legend Daryl, who's equally as exciting, up and comer. Both of these guys are really, making a name for themselves. The only edge Drew really has over Legend Daryl is Drew is a high desert favorite. He's a former Destination 6 high desert champion. So the fans just love him to pieces. Sorry, guys, I gotta wet the whistle. And if you're wondering, it's sugar-free because my doctor already says I'm too sweet.
Okay, before I get to the next question, I got to give a shout out to a couple of people in the state of Washington and a promotion. So, a promotion that you guys should check out in Washington is CPW. That's Combat Pro Wrestling. What makes them interesting is most wrestling promotions use a wrestling ring, right? This promotion uses a stage like a play or a ballet. But they do every move that you would do in a wrestling ring just on a stage instead.
No ring.
No ring.
So falls count anywhere.
No, just any of their matches are on a stage. Falls count anywhere. Anything happens.
When can I book the next flight to see this? It's intriguing.
They've got 3 shows coming up.
I believe their next show is on May 18th, and then we'll be doing a media scrum.
Actually, Mr. Host, I don't mean
my executive producer.
Actually, Mr. Host, I don't mean to rudely interrupt you. Well, yes, I do, but you need to get your damn facts right. The first show is on the 29th, but of course you're busy that day, Mr. Triple M. So I'll forgive you on that one. The next show is April 27th. Or May 27th. And
get your dates right, fella.
and then their WrestleMania, if you want to actually come down and actually watch 2 shows, their WrestleMania is at the Strawberry Festival, and that is June 17th.
Wrestling and strawberries? You need not say more.
And Mr. Host, I believe their man-eater is coming to eat you on your birthday, if I remember correctly.
Yummy. Yeah. Tell them to bring extra salt and pepper. And they start bottom up.
Well, I don't know if you want to start bottom up, but I guess so. And then there's a couple of wrestlers I want to promote. One, I think, is the newest client of Big Money Dodge. And that is the Black King, Deontay Ford.
Okay.
Great interview, by the way.
Which is another interview we've done.
If Big Money Dodge has picked up a new talent, I may have to rethink taking on this case.
think I'm hurting my case the more I talk. And then
Hey, I don't win them all, just most of them, but none have I won against Dodge.
and the second people I want to promote is the hottest promotion, literally and figuratively, or the hottest faction. I mean, literally and figuratively in the Pacific Northwest, which is Hellbound.
Hellbound sounds like my first marriage.
So now the next question: who are your two biggest
Finally.
rivals in your company? Yes, I know. Who are your two biggest rivals in the company,
My biggest rivals?
or the two biggest rivals in Valor? Period.
That's kind of hard to say. I will admit I do have some heat with Drew Masters. I alluded to my faction, my collection of perfect, beautiful musical notes, a symphony of destruction, a concert of calamity, the sounds of pain. And the sounds of pain are consisted of Ronnie Angel, the Disco King, the most entertaining entertainer in all of sports entertainment, Louis 54, the King of Harmony, Moonlight Leo, and your side chick's favorite wrestler, Aiden Way. Now, Louis had a match
Sounds like something.
with Mr. Drew Masters, I believe at our opening Valor Pro Wrestling show, which I forgot to tell the referee something before the match, and I had to tell him during, and it might be suspected of interference, but the charges haven't stuck yet. But Drew Masters, I would say, would be someone that could get into a rivalry. You have Aiden Way, and I have to touch this subject because I'm going to touch it twofold, okay, and not in like a weird island kind of way, touching it like you would touch a table, okay. It's all above the waist. Aiden Way, dear friend of mine, one of my favorite wrestlers, was supposed to have a match against Biggie Biggs. And they are no strangers to each other. But unfortunately, conveniently, Mr. Biggie Biggs cannot make it to second attempt. And is it the first time Aiden and Biggie were going to tie up? No, it's not. Is it the last time? Probably not. But it is significant. So now Aiden takes on Dreamy Drew. So if I was going to say there is a feud to be had, it is going to be between Biggie Biggs and Aiden Way. And I cannot wait to see the fruits of that labor. Then we have the dominant force. And I suggest you put reverence in your heart as I speak of this individual. I suggest all of you get on your hands and knees now and put your hands together and pray to divine royalty, because the God King is the pinnacle. He is the mountaintop of Valor Pro Wrestling. This man has broken our ring twice. With other individuals, of course. But nonetheless, God King is such a force, contains so much divine strength that he can break a wrestling ring twice. Wow. The rivalry that should be talked about is between the world and the God King, because many come to challenge him, but many get buried where they lay. It's like he has omnipotence of some sort.
happen, you just.
and he reigns his divine kingdom with an iron fist.
This is a really common growth, and they're not usually this big. If this were smaller, I would usually use like the nitrogen and freeze them.
And we
Makes
sell
me
some
wanna
good
go-
popcorn.
Makes me want to go see.
I'm
God.
telling you, if you happen to be in the area of Hesperia, if you want to be in the area of Hesperia, jump on that airplane. I don't know if it's JetBlue. I don't know if it's Southwest Airlines. Call Elon Musk. Maybe he could teleport you over here, but you need to be in Hesperia, California, April 29th for 92345. Second attempt. Tickets are $20 for adults. 10, I think it's 12 for kids. I got to double check that information. I don't have the flyer in front of me. Forgive me. But it is going to be an exciting show. Our first two shows were standing room only. Standing room only. That should tell you. We packed that room as far as we could take it. And now we have a new home at the VFW Hall 2924 right there on Hesperia Road. And it's not a mistake that Valor Pro Wrestling is going to be at the Veterans of Foreign War Hall. Valor is an integral part of battle. And that's what these talent do. Every single time they get in the ring, they battle each other. My Uncle Mike served in Vietnam, as did my father. And my Uncle Mike was given a Bronze Star for valor. I myself am an Army vet. I do not have any distinguishing merits. I just serve my country proudly and honorably. But the fact that a majority of professional wrestling fans happen to be current or former military members, a bulk of wrestling talent I have found are also veterans. Psycho Stu is a veteran. Legend Daryl happens to be a veteran, just to name a couple.
You
Looks
wanna
like one of you
ask
want
the
to
next
ask me a question.
Okay, who's got the next question? Come on.
I plead the fifth.
Is there any specific training you need to become a ring announcer?
If you leave from
Yes, to a degree. You have to learn how to work with the talent.
This area can.
I mean, you can go out there, get a little note, and now coming to the ring from St. Louis, Missouri, weighing in at 212 pounds, Harley Race. You have to learn how to emphasize and get these guys over. If you don't know what the term "get them over" means, sell them to the crowd. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, now making his way to the ring, your side chick's favorite wrestler, the High Desert's bastard son, Hayden Way! You gotta project yourself. On top of that, you're not just a standing figure. You're not just a little statue. During intermission, you need to interact with the crowd. You need to keep the juices flowing. You got to warm them up. You got to get them going. If they're not cheering before the first match starts, you have failed as a ring announcer, in my opinion. One of the biggest things you need to learn is how to stay nervous and keep the butterflies in your stomach. I'm a firm believer that if you don't feel nervous about your performance, you shouldn't be out there doing it. If you don't have a little bit of the butterflies and the excitement, and when I say nervous, it's not you should be scared, but you should be excited to be putting on the performance, right? You should always have the thought of, yeah, I'm impressing them, but what can I do better, right? Sometimes things happen in wrestling. We can agree, right? Sometimes the unscripted or the unplanned will happen, and you need to learn how to fill that void or pick up the pace or get something going. It's a lot of reading the room, and it's a lot of practice. I gotta be honest. I gotta tip my hat to Lance Winters because he was the ring announcer that I sat under, that I got to learn from before I became a ring announcer. And then I had the privilege of meeting Renee Cruz, who is a WWE accredited ring announcer. So it's a great thing, man. It's a great thing to get these people going. Like, I kind of stole it from Triple H, but I do that. Are you ready? Right? And you get them hyped up. You got to mess with the crowd sometimes. You gotta take some heat from the crowd sometimes. You got to do some unpopular stuff to get the show going. But being a ring announcer, you're fairly a neutral character.
Completely understandable. Can you tell us a little bit about the companies you worked for and why you chose to work for
them? Yeah, no problem. I'll go down the list. I've done work for Traditional Wrestling Entertainment as a ring announcer, run by Mr. Bill Chu. Bill, I hope you're watching, buddy. Bill Chu's a great guy. Great guy, lovely individual, puts on a good wrestling show. And he was one of those guys that saw when I was beginning to break out, gave me an opportunity. If he ever, had an opportunity for me to come back, announce a show, commentate a show, what have you, I would love to, because he's a great guy. Relentless Pro Wrestling, April 22nd, Triple M, the Golden Voice, brings my beast, my destroyer, half man, half wolf, Rilla Wolf, and 100% unstoppable force that's going to run through your empire, Relentless Pro Wrestling. And Biggie Biggs, we are glad you are the biggest, baddest dog in the yard, because we want to make a statement, an example that not even the biggest and baddest is safe. Sorry, I had to cut that quick promo for them. I love Relentless Pro Wrestling. It's a fun show. It's an exciting locker room, working with a bunch of guys that, I've worked with time and time again, like Rickster, Mikey O'Shea, Jack Bruce Davidson, Azriel, Inferno again. Just great. They allow me to be a character there. They allow me to really embody Triple M, working that crowd, getting people upset, because I'd be lying to you if I told you I wasn't a heel manager. Okay. But love working with Relentless Pro Wrestling. They're doing exciting stuff. They do a media scrum before every show too. And I'm always glad to be a part of it. I got to give a shout out to Amped Up Wrestling, run by Sean Black, the current Amped Up heavyweight champion. Amped Up is a very cool promotion. The focus of their promotion is giving back to the community in a very special way. A lot of shows they do are for the special needs communities, the youth and adults. It's awesome performing for those audiences, because whether you're a good guy or a bad guy, everybody's cheering for you. And they have such a blast. Sean Black is really doing a lot of great work also with the Backhouse podcast. He's bringing awareness to men's mental health. And somebody that's doing such positive things like that, I am more than happy to be associated with. So I'm very grateful for Amped Up Pro Wrestling. Also, Amped Up is where the Sounds of Pain made their great debut. We are 1-0. Just so if you're keeping count there, King Triv, Chris Disney, CeeLo, and all your friends. Compton Mania. I touched on Compton Mania, and I gotta say, it's a special privilege and honor to work with Compton Mania, to work with Deshaun Watkins, to work with Anthony Desiree, to work with his wife, Tyra, and the team they got there, to work with Shiloh Greaves. And Shiloh Greaves is an incredible wrestler as well as booker. Another Knox Pro Academy alumni, someone that takes the wrestling business very seriously. And you can respect the passion he has and the love that he pours into every show they do, every storyline they're developing. And Compton Mania is a very unique experience. Because at the beginning, I kind of felt like I didn't belong there. but they have very much made me feel like family, making me part of storylines, making me part of the bigger picture of Compton Mania. And it's so cool, man. It's so cool. I thought I had friends before I got involved in wrestling, and I find out, man, there's so many great people in this world in professional wrestling. I want to give a big shout out to Destination 6 Wrestling. I want to say that I love Mama CC Impact and Chris Impact with all my heart. They're the ones that gave me the break in this business, so I am able to fulfill a childhood dream. And I kind of jokingly alluded to it before about being the runt of the litter. But being a small kid, I was bullied. I was picked on growing up. Doesn't mean I sat there and I took it, because daddy didn't raise a punk. But the fact that people thought less of me, that I couldn't be something, and though it may have taken me 30 plus years to get here, hey, I am still here. So it just goes to show, you can push through it. You can live the dream. And for Mama Impact, Chris, and Joe to take a gamble on a kid from Baldwin Park, it was a lot. It meant a lot. And 3 years later, I'm enjoying where I'm at in wrestling, hoping to grow more, seeing what's left for me, what's next. Anybody from TNA, NWA, Impact, Ring of Honor out there watching, squeeze me. I'll give you some juice.
And before we get to the next question, speaking of Sean Black, he will be on our podcast in June on the 9th.
We don't really know why this is related to diabetes.
Sean Black, man. Like I said, he's a great guy. Really great guy. Really humble guy. Someone who truly loves the wrestling business. And one of those guys that is trying to make avenues for talent like myself and others, constantly telling us, hey, man, push yourself. Tag WWE, tag Ring of Honor, tag all of them in your post. Make them notice you. And it's really cool. I mean, he's got his own wrestling company. I've been shellacked by him. He's on my list of guys who have brutalized me. Okay? But just tip top professional. Knows what he's doing. An incredible talent in the ring. Incredible talent in the ring. Really knows how to effectively entertain the crowd and get the message across.
Did you always know you wanted to become a professional wrestler, or what was the true profession you wanted to become if you were not a wrestler?
It's funny you asked that. As I was in my teens, I want to say like 16, 17 years old, getting closer to graduation, I really started thinking about things. I knew I wanted to be a professional wrestler from the day I saw Roddy Piper. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I would jump off of stuff. I ran backyard shows with my buddies. We did whole wrestling shows at our high school football stadium without anybody knowing. So it was in me. I wanted to continue my family's legacy. As I mentioned, my father served in the Marine Corps 1st Recon in Vietnam. My uncle Mike, who I'm named after, was 173rd Airborne and 82nd Airborne in Vietnam. My uncle Andy was 101st Airborne in Vietnam. My mother served in the Air Force, not in Vietnam. Her brother Joe served in the Arizona National Guard. My mom's dad, my grandfather Rudy, served in World War II with the Army. So I come from a big military family. So I wanted to join the military, and I did. I think the only thing I did not accomplish in my life was becoming Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell. That's the only thing. I still can't even do the whole timeout thing and freeze time, so that just didn't work out for me. Otherwise, so a few years ago, I retired from protecting the city of Gotham from crime. But yeah, I mean, wrestling was always something I was going to do come hell or high water. And wrestling gives unique gifts. And I want to disclaim this, but I have a very unique perspective on the world. I'm 39 years old this time. So I've lived life a little bit. We've seen the ups and downs. So I can see the silver lining on a rain cloud, if you will. Okay. So part of the reason my first marriage ended was wrestling. It was, are you going to continue to drag us to these shows that aren't paying you very much so you can just get your entertainment and feed your narcissistic ego? And I kept the same answer I did my sophomore year of high school when a girl that I was dating presented me with the same question. Well, I guess it's wrestling. And not to sound cold, there were other circumstances within it, but she wasn't a wrestling fan. So, in a way, wrestling brought me into a better situation and took me out of a not so good situation and put me in a better situation. Because now my current girlfriend, fiance, domestic partner, wife, if you will, loves wrestling, loves going to the shows. Our 7-year-old son, Hansel, he doesn't get, we buy him action figures, but when he goes to the show, he plays with wrestlers in a whole other way. He gets to hang out with God King and Aiden Wade and Boom Shasta and Anunnaki. He gets to hang out with his favorite wrestlers and they're his friends. And on his birthday, they give him phone calls and send him videos saying happy birthday. And the same thing for my 13-year-old daughter. It's a family experience for us. Wrestling people are our family. Aiden Wade's mother, Mama Wade, God bless that woman. She is a saint, Mama Wade. Most darling woman you will ever meet. And I know her because of her son, who's an incredible athlete, an incredible performer. Aiden Wade is a guy you guys need to get on this show.
Got ya. I'm sure I can get my executive producer on that.
Also, former Washington native Ronnie Angel would be another guy you guys want to talk to. They're part of the Sounds of Pain, if you will, so forgive me pushing them so hard.
No problem.
But Ronnie's a wrestler who grew up in Washington, wrestled in Washington. He's also an acclaimed actor and author.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, man, I can't imagine a life without wrestling.
I think we all share that. At least the four of us that are on the podcast.
Before we get into the next question, I just want to say to you and your whole family, thank you for your service.
It was a pleasure and an honor. My paperwork came with my birth certificate. I didn't have a choice. Well, I did, but I chose it. My father was so upset when I joined the Army. He didn't want me to go. He had served in Vietnam. He had suffered 21 shrapnel wounds from the waist down, being hit with an RPG near the Laotian border on February 7th, 1971. It's just nice having a relationship like that to support and, to help. But yeah, I mean, ironically enough, if I would have re-enlisted, I would have got to be Triple H.
Can you tell us about the championships in your company?
Has,
and which one is the most special?
At this point, Valor Pro Wrestling has not established titles. They are coming soon. We are still in our infancy going into our third show. So we are setting the groundwork for titles. That said, I can speak for my collective group, the Sounds of Pain, as well as Rilla Wolf being their representative. The Sounds of Pain are on a mission this year. We want gold, and we want all of it. We want all the tag gold, whether it's Relentless Pro Wrestling, whether it's Squared Circle Society, whether it's traditional wrestling entertainment, whether it is Compton Mania or Valor Pro Wrestling. We want the tag gold. Furthermore, we are going to take the tag gold. There is nothing you can do about it, but nothing or like it. When it comes to Rilla Wolf, I am putting the RPW, the Relentless Pro Wrestling Locker Room, on notice. Rilla Wolf has been burdened by glorious purpose, fueled by a flame that has not been seen since the dawn of time. And the Relentless Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship will be in our sights. Biggie Biggs, you are just the first stepping stone on the stairs we climb to get to the top of the mountain.
Do you prefer to manage or announce for a single wrestler, tag team wrestler, or with your faction?
With my faction, it's a collective of talent. We all met at Destination 6 Wrestling. I found 4 of the brightest, most underutilized, most underrated wrestlers on the scene. Aiden Wade is a maniac, a masochistic man who just loves to see other people's blood dripping off his body. That's why I consider him the Southern California king of the death match. Louis 54 does it with such style and grace and elegance that it looks beautiful. Him taking his opponents apart. Ronnie Angel, he's an educated man. He's an author, but don't forget that he's the bad boy from the wrong side of the tracks. Grease Lightning will leave you nothing but a pile of ashes. And Moonlight Leo will dominate you with such perfect harmony. You can't but feel at peace as you lay up looking at the ceiling lights. Then we have Rilla Wolf, a force of nature within himself. The wisdom, the cunning of a wolf, the power, the strength, and the respect of a gorilla. I don't know if you've ever seen a Mack truck disassemble a car, but that's the only way I can explain what Rilla Wolf does in the ring. I prefer to take them as they come. I can manage a tag team. I can manage a group of 4. I can manage a singles competitor. It doesn't matter the situation. We will rise to the top and we will perform. But most of all, the crowd will know who they are there to see. When the crowd cheered for Ronnie Angel's glorious triumph over Jack Bruce Davidson at the January show of Relentless Pro Wrestling, the ring announcer, Anthony Desiree, was so enamored, he had to announce Ronnie's win twice.
Wow. So before we get to our next question, we'd like to speak to our first sponsor, which is the CARE program. That stands for Community Action Reaching Everybody. And to get a hold of that program, you can look up Becky Bernhardt on Facebook. Could you tell us and our viewers the preparation that goes into being an announcer or manager?
It takes a lot of preparation. typically will show up to the show at call time, which is usually 2 hours before the show. If I'm announcing, I make sure I have my Red Bull and my bottle of water first off. You gotta have the Red Bull. Sugar free, baby. Gives me wings. Then you want to make sure you, as an announcer, you get with the matches that are on the card. I don't knock anybody for using cards. Myself, I tend to ad lib, but in more with talent I haven't really worked with before, I will use index cards. To each their own. If you're great at ad libbing and going off the top, great. But sometimes you will forget something, and forgetting something as an announcer could be detrimental to how that talent is presented. You want to make sure you got, you clearly get where they're from, how they want to be announced, what their ring name is, what kind of panache they want put on their name. If they're a baby face, you got to do it more joyful. If they're a heel, you kind of got to come down with it and get a little bit more guttural with it, or find your style. Finding your style is kind of a thing. I tend, because I have a raspiness in my voice, it comes out, but I try to belt out things like Howard Finkel used to. Coming down the aisle, But then when I do things like Principe Lee, you hear that raspiness that's naturally there in my voice. So you gotta find your voice, if you will. As far as being a manager, if you're managing a singles, it's a little bit easier. Well, it's pretty much the same. You should put the same kind of meticulous attention to the match that the wrestlers are. You have to make sure you know what your cue is, where you're going, what the timing is, where you should be when they're at this point of the match. The main thing is reading the crowd. The wrestlers know what they're doing in the ring. They're professionals. And I want to tell you, every time I've managed somebody, I've never taken anything away from the other individual that is inside the ring. Jack Bruce Davidson did a phenomenal job with Ronnie Angel at RPW's show in January. These two men put on one hell of a spectacular match. The crowd was entertained. I'm just there as that little extra sprinkle on the top, if you will. When they go to Benihana's and they're impressing you, I'm just that little extra flame that pops up. So your job is mainly to work the crowd. If someone's cheering for the guy you're not representing, talk some stinky poo-poo. I don't know what the censorship on this show is, so I'm going to say stinky poo-poo. But rile them up. Get them going. If you can have friends or family members come to the show that are kind of into what you do and know your character, it can help because they can lend to the experience. Don't be afraid of somebody getting in your face. There's security there. And if the fan pops you, sell it. Sell it. It's a moment. Take a picture of it. Sell it. Monetize it. As a manager, I've had the honor of working with Ronnie Angel, Louis 54, Aiden Wade, Moonlight Leo, coming up, Rilla Wolf, Julio Rivera, who is an up-and-coming wrestler, trained by New Japan Wrestling Dojo. As I mentioned, I represented Principe Leon when he was our Ultra Gen 6 champion as he competed in a tournament for another wrestling company. It's a fun job, man. I've got to work across the ring with Homeless Jimmy, XPW legend, Homeless Jimmy. That was the first heel pop I ever got. Homeless Jimmy wasn't there, but man, the fire back on the internet was great. So Ronnie was working an angle where he was antagonizing Homeless Jimmy. To which I told the crowd, I know how to find homeless Jimmy. I reached in my pocket, I pulled out a pile of change, and I threw it on the floor. All the air left that area, and it was outside. So, and you have to know how to ride your lines. You can't go too far. Can't go too far. Can't make fun of somebody's mama too hard. But I love the back and forth, especially with the kids. The kids are the best. They call you fun stuff. They tell you John Cena's going to beat you up. And to be fair, I would never know if John Cena beat me up or not because I can't see him.
So before we move on to the next question, we're going to pop Mr. Gino Rivera. He's our interview tomorrow evening at 7:30.
Mr. Gino Rivera.
Or,
You
I'm
know-
sorry, Mr. I told you so.
Mr. Gino Told You So Rivera happens to be one of my favorites in the ring. The January show for Relentless Pro Wrestling, he was on the show. He took on Daniel Torch in a phenomenal match, incredibly entertaining match. When it comes for one of those guys that are on that upper echelon of professional wrestling, and because let's admit it, and I'm not trying to be condescending, I'm not trying to say I am up there because there's levels to wrestling, right? I'm still on entry level. I don't give myself any credit whatsoever. I haven't done anything. But guys like Gino, they're paving the way for other guys like us, right? He's worked with AEW. He's worked with WWE. He's working shows everywhere. He has a wrestling school. He's training guys. When he's in the locker room, he doesn't have a problem talking to guys, giving them tips and connecting with them. This is a guy that I hope goes very, very far in professional wrestling. And I hope everybody realizes the mark that he is leaving on locker rooms that he is in.
Scar, no funny textures or colors. But the thing is, it is tough to
And before one more question, we also have the other guy you mentioned, Principal Leon, on our show on the 25th of this month.
Hola, carnal, Príncipe, ¿cómo estás, güey? So, Príncipe happens to be one of my good friends. He's an incredible guy. One of the most fun guys to watch in the ring. The things he does. This is another little tidbit for the trivia in the future about Triple M. If you guys want to know how I exclusively identify, I am a Mandalorian. So at a point, I was rocking my Boba Fett helmet everywhere I went. Principe gave me the distinct honor of him wearing my Boba Fett helmet to the ring.
Oh.
On top of that, I've mentioned this prestigious title I hold in my lap. And Principe Leon having held this title. That's his signature.
Wow.
I got to tell you,
Feel good.
his name fits his character.
Stress. It was stubborn. It was tough to
This is a guy who has the heart of a lion when it comes to wrestling. Incredible tag team wrestler, incredible singles wrestler, guaranteed to give you more than your money's worth every time. Incredible with the fans. Did I mention April 29th, Hesperia, California, VFW Hall 2924, 92345, second attempt. Principe Leon, High Desert favorite, comes all the way from Las Vegas to take on the Lizard King in one-on-one action. Another reason for you guys to come on out from Washington, Poughkeepsie, Nashville, Tennessee. And if we have anybody watching in Tennessee, I just want to state for the record, Elvis is not the king of Memphis, it's Jerry Lawler. Come out and see us. I have family in the area, so I just had to do that. But yeah, Principe Leon, incredible guy. There's so much I can say about him. So much. He's one of my son's favorites. You know, that's one of the things about being in wrestling. You would have to expect your kids to say that you're their favorite wrestler. And they're like, get out of my way, Dad. Principe Leon's right there. Get him a soda.
All right, my favorite snack is cookies. What is your favorite cookie or snack, and what would it be, and why?
Oh, man. Why you got to do this to me? I was just diagnosed with diabetes not but 3 weeks ago, and the doctor took all my cookies away. I like. Here's the thing: I have a personality of excess, so I can't like just one thing. Except for my girlfriend, I want to state that for the record. Okay. But like those mega stuffed Oreos.
Mm.
And then the double stuffed Oreos?
Uh-huh.
Well, I like to make a mega double stuffed Oreo.
Ooh.
I like those Chewy Chips Ahoy cookies too. I also like the cousins, the Chewy Chips Ahoy with Reese's in it. I like vegan ice cream because I'm lactose intolerant. Who knew plants can make good ice cream? I was a big soda guy, but now, like I said, I can't have the sugar. So now it's I don't want to get us in trouble with sponsorships, but it's just zero sugar, zero sugar, green can, zero sugar. Ironic, but I love tres leches cake because I'm lactose intolerant. To the irony, but now I can get it with oat milk, coconut milk, and almond milk if I want. Yeah, I really like the sweets. I like spicy stuff too, like Takis. Takis, oh man, I need a bottle of Pepto Bismol after, but are they good?
Yeah, I heard they are really good.
They don't have any milk in them, so I can eat them.
Yeah, I just recently finished a bag of those not that long ago.
They're so good. But man, do they make you feel like a NASA rocket after?
So, who was the last person to give you advice on your wrestling skills? And what advice was it? And do you still follow that advice today?
I've actually had quite a few people give me advice on my wrestling skills because I don't have any.
Well, we can always change that to your announcing skills. How about that?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about critiques in the wrestling business. I'm one of those people that I take critiques very well. Call it working in the car business my whole life, call it being in the Army a bulk of my life, call it growing up in a military family, or call it growing up with a bunch of cousins where all we did was pick on each other. But I take critique very well, and I see it as this: if someone's taking the time out of their day to critique me on something, it means they must like me for some reason or have some interest in what I'm doing. Or potentially we could be working together and they want to make sure that I'm as good as they are or potentially close to it. I've gotten advice from, members of Destination 6 Wrestling. I've gotten advice from Necro King, Shiloh Greaves, TMD. I've gotten advice from our good friend, Mr. Big Money Steve Dodge. And I take it well. I've gotten advice from Ringside Renee as well. And I just think any advice someone has to give only benefits you, especially if you're the new guy in town. I don't know everything. The things I know in the wrestling business is one grain of sand, and there's a whole desert ahead of me. I'm pretty sure there's people in the wrestling business that have forgotten more important things than I will ever learn in the wrestling business. So I take that for what it is. Now, on the other hand, I suggest if you're going to be a manager, if you are going to be an announcer, train for the ring. It is in your best interest. I have been given this advice by many, and I am taking this advice. I won't put out there who I'm training with as far as wrestlers, but I'll be working with Robert Acevedo, who is a very, very well-respected wrestling trainer. Are you gentlemen familiar with Glow Wrestling?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the Royal Hawaiian?
Yes, we are.
Funny, she will be a guest next week on our show.
She is a sweetheart and a darling, and I love her to death. And she was also trained by Robert Acevedo. So, and I'm not saying I'm training for an in-ring debut. I am not saying I'm going to go out there and I'm going to dominate a division. But if you're a manager, if you're part of the show, expect to take a bump at some point. Expect to take a fall. Expect to be part of a storyline. Expect to do something. Because it's a one-off, but it happens. And you should know how to properly fall and properly take care of yourself. And learning from professionals is the best way to do it. Valor Pro Wrestling has a school up in Asperia. I believe OCCW has a school in Staten, California. So if you can get yourself to a wrestling school to learn the basics, learning how to bump, learning how to run the ropes, learning how to hit the ropes. I'll tell you, you hit those ropes the wrong way, you're going to break a rib. That is steel cable, wrapped on steel cable. It is an art form. It is a delicate, very precise action that you have to do in wrestling. Guys can get hurt from the simplest things. And it's about properly training to know how to protect yourself, more so to protect the other individual in the ring with you. They're not haphazardly going out there and brutalizing each other's bodies for fun and entertainment. They are there putting on a performance and a show for you so you can be highly entertained and they can go home to their family and live another day to entertain.
What is the one match that sets your promotion apart from anyone else?
Well, that's a good question. Valor Pro Wrestling, we have some announcements coming on a very special set of matches that will be announced. Thus far, other promotions have their niches or have their distinguished matches. I can tell you the most distinguishable match, there's two of them. There's two of them that I had the pleasure of calling. Was the first match I ever called for Destination 6 Wrestling. It was Aiden Way versus Matt Twisted in a barbed wire massacre. The ropes were replaced with barbed wire. Man, it was a sight to see. Jokingly enough, Aiden Way came out with my custom RHWF championship belt. That was the name of the wrestling organization I ran in the backyard when I was in high school. So special nod there. Still undefeated. The match ended because Matt Twisted ended up suffering a severe cut from the barbed wire. I believe it went from his nipple to about his shoulder blade.
Ooh.
So that was pretty iconic. The other would be the steel cage match at Destination 6. It is the shortest championship defense in wrestling history. Psycho Stu was taking on Sergeant Major. In the weeks leading up to that, Psycho Stu treated me like a ping pong ball, bouncing me off the steel cage. That was fun. But subsequently, there were shenanigans. Sergeant Major was handcuffed to the ropes. The match started. Psycho Stu left the cage in 1 second, being the quickest title defense in all of professional wrestling history.
Which ring announcer inspired you, and do you take any of their styles with you when you announce?
I take everybody's style with me when I announce. Howard Finkel was a big influence. Other than that, Bruce Buffer. Oh no, what's the more famous one? The one that does the boxing match. Is that Michael?
Yes.
Michael Buffer, yeah. the
Michael
one that was
Buffer.
in
Michael.
WCW.
Nothing to take away from Bruce. He's just his voice is a more deeper tone than I would like. But you know, growing up hearing, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, ooh, let's get ready to rumble. I mean, who didn't grow up with that? Right? I used to say that every time before my parents got into an argument. The last one ended in a split decision, by the way. But then, like I said, Howard Finkel was such a cool voice. You know what I mean? But now coming down the aisle, the Ultimate Warrior. Like, he's such an iconic voice. So yeah, those are two I really kind of play around with.
Pat, you got the
I think
next
he
one?
got an idea. The light went on over his head.
I think
No,
so,
I was
too.
scrolling through the questions so I know where I'm at.
No worries.
During your time in the business of professional wrestling, who gave you the best advice professionally and personally, and what was that advice they gave you?
Damn, that's a good question because I've gotten a lot of advice from a lot of people, and a lot of it's been good.
I had this birthmark my entire life as I've grown and grown. I've been going to a dermatologist for as long as I can remember. But
I get a lot of different advice from different places. Some of the best advice I got was from Chris Impact of Destination 6 Wrestling. And that was pace yourself. Sometimes you can get excited with the booking and you can just go nuts hammering promo after promo after promo after promo. But then you end up like diluted Kool-Aid. So you kind of got to learn how to pick your spots. He also gave me the advice of expanding my wardrobe a bit. Meaning I have this thing with shirts I wear, certain shirts I wear, depending on where I'm performing. So like I'll have these short sleeve little shirts that are pretty trendy now. But you never really want to wear the same thing twice, even if it's months apart. People are going to notice you're recycling outfits. Other advice I got is from a dear friend of mine, Big Papi Mario Konansky of the family. He was a great referee and manager. If you're good at something, don't do it for free. Other than that, like I said, I get a wealth of great advice from people. Sometimes there's unpleasant things that are said about you in professional wrestling, the rumors and all that. And I won't name names, but it was one of the best pieces of advice I was given.
How are you?
Who cares?
Cool.
If it doesn't affect your performance and it doesn't affect your bookings and how you're getting out there, ignore it. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
So I'm going to take a little bit of advice from Mr. Triple M here. Mr. Host,
when they go to college.
my pay has just went up. I am no longer for free. You're going to start paying me now for my work that I do for
Whoa,
you.
whoa, whoa. The preface of that was if you're good at something.
Oh, I'm good. I mean, as the host can attest, I've booked 4 months worth of shows for him.
Just that being there.
Yes, but you forget.
I
You
book
know
shows.
how much
I
money
book
we.
shows. I book shows in my sleep for you, young man.
Yes, but you realize you by anybody understand how much we make on this show. So what do you want me to pay you in box tops?
He will
We'll
be
have
able to
figure
get
out
the
something,
education he
man.
needs.
So we all know things happen in a match. Can you tell us a time you had to change the ending of a match? If not the ending, the whole thing.
There's a couple. There's a couple I can think about. Now, I won't say I changed the ending of the match because I didn't have that creative control. I wasn't involved with that aspect of it. But yes, things happen in the ring. I remember one time at Destination 6 Wrestling that Necro King took a pretty nice brain buster on the apron. And when I say pretty nice, I say that completely sarcastically because he landed ugly. The match finished, and then Necro came out, and it was actually kind of a cool scene. But he kind of started working like the Eugene gimmick, and it got over. It was great. The other time was a match involving Rancho Camacho, incredible wrestler. And he ended up injuring his ankle during the match, at which point the show just kind of ended there. It was the last match on the card, but it was serious enough injury that we had to, render first aid and clear the building. But I mean, I've seen match finishes change. It happens sometimes. Sometimes, you zig when you're supposed to zag, and a guy gets hurt or something unexpected happen. Somebody can't make the booking for some reason. That's why it says card subject to change. But I mean, it just shows you the professionalism of the individuals that are performing to be able to make such drastic adjustments on the fly.
If you had a dream match, what would it be? Who would be involved in it, and why? And who would you put over in the match?
And now, are we talking about the group of people I work with, or are we talking about the broader spectrum of professional wrestling?
Just any promotion, any era. If you were the booker and you wanted to put together one dream match,
I would want to put an elimination style rumble together with XYZ heavyweight championship on the line, whatever promotion I work with. I would love to see, and forgive me, but we can book all the dream matches we want from the professionals that we see in WWE, AEW, in the higher echelons. I like to kind of if it was Battle World and Marvel Comics and I'm the Beyonder and I'm putting this together, I'm going to work with some of the best talent that are out here, and I'm going to pick 10 of them right off the top of my head. In no particular order. Gino Told You So Rivera would be in that match. Inferno would be in that match. Wolf would be in that match. Aiden Wade would be in that match. The God King would be in that match. Boom Shasta would be in that match. Jimmy Mayhem would be in that match. A name that really should have been on this show, and forgive me for not saying it sooner. Hellsman Rose Crown would be on that list. Shiloh Greaves would be on that list. And who would the 10th man be? It would be the current Compton Mania Boulevard champion, Sad Boy. And Hellsman Rose Crown and Sad Boy are a couple gents you need to talk to.
Got you. What is the best match of your career so far as an announcer or manager?
Best match of my career was when the Sounds of Pain let the people hear the music by laying down Chris Disney, CeeLo Brown, and King Triv. Wah, wah. And then the religion started to cry. Wah, wah. Because they know there's nothing better out there than the Sounds of Pain. We're like Motown. We're better than the Backstreet Boys. We're smoother than butter, baby. We're whatever you need us to be, and we don't play bar mitzvahs. We might, if the pay is right. I take that back. I would say our debut of the Sounds of Pain.
Great answer.
What mark would you leave, would like to leave, on the wrestling community as a manager or announcer?
Being the most obnoxious, annoying, antagonizing vermin I can. No, I'm joking. I just want to be known, remember, for the character I am. I want to be known for that kid that didn't take no for an answer when they all told me I couldn't do it, to include the woman I was supposed to share the rest of my life with. When the world is against you, all you can do is take a sip of water and say, "Here I come, world. I'm going to knock you on your ass." I want to be known for inspiring others to not give up, to chase the dream, whatever it may be. Whether you want to be a public official, whether you want to invent a new product, you want to make a new service, whether you want to grow up to be the superhero you always wanted to be, or be part of this crazy, crazy fun world of wrestling, don't let anything stop you. Don't let anybody tell you you can't, because when you give up on the dream, you'll find out the dream didn't give up on you, and it will put itself right in front of you. And all you have to do is open the door and walk into a bigger world than you were in before. And you should be proud of your failures. I failed so many times trying to get here, and then it happened. You cannot have success unless you learn how to swallow your failures. And failure isn't failing. It's a learning experience. It's a character building experience. That's what I want to be remembered for. I want my kids to look at me and say, "Damn, Dad did it. Come hell or high water, he did it." Am I going to make it to WWE? Who knows? Will they have me in TNA? We'll see. Can I go to AEW? Maybe if I buy a ticket. But keep the dream alive. It's just like my dad told me growing up. He used to sit me down and tell me, "Mijo, I don't care what you be. Just be the best at it you can be, and make sure you're happy with it."
So I'm gonna take my time to numb up this.
Ironically enough, you want to be a lawyer, and now I play one on TV.
We're gonna do a few more questions. So Go ahead. Oh, sorry. So first, before I get to that, our next sponsor is Bruce Nichols Painting for all your painting needs. He does pressure washing, painting, and lead removal, and you can look him up on Facebook. And he's taking bids right now. So
You guys might want to hire him for after Steve Dodge buys the show. You might want to repaint everything.
We'll keep that in mind. Especially because we might have to paint over his mouth after he wants to buy this podcast.
There's no wanting to. He will buy this
Good.
podcast from you
Hey,
one day.
if you guys thought I ran my mouth, you ain't seen nothing yet with Steve Dodge.
Oh, we know.
Okay, we've all seen some pretty nasty injuries with Dante Martin's ankle that just got broken at Supercard of Honor. What is your worst injury that you've had in your career?
In my career, a paper cut. But I want to say probably one of the worst accidental injuries I saw was definitely the Matt Twisted cut.
Yeah.
Necro taking that brain buster was awful to look at. I once saw Aiden Way with about 25 skewers in his forehead. I still have thumbtacks from that match embedded in the bottom of my shoes.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah, let me see it.
Ow.
So there you go.
Yeah, those are going to be my top three right there.
Not that cute.
Wow.
I think my first time actually seeing it. A little bit dark, it looked like a
If you could book one match as a promoter, who would be the wrestlers involved? What would the match be? Where would it be? And what would the outcome be?
and now when they do
If I had to book a match,
toast like the other side of my head,
I would book a match
how quick it was hitting off.
for the Square Circle Society Tag Team Championships, as well as the Square Circle Society Heavyweight Championship, putting my Sounds of Pain against Necro King's Religion. And then when after everything's said and done and the dust settles and we watch, just like an award show, the Sounds of Pain leave with all the gold. That'll be you in the corner. That'll be us in the spotlight, losing your religion, Necro.
Ooh.
Ooh. So can you tell us one story that people might not know about you, or they might not be able to look up that would make them go, "Oh my God"?
Read the question
I
right.
can tell you a
host.
story. It was way back. I was stationed in Japan. I was actually being held POW there. And then I heard the bomb rate sirens go off. A young corporal named Yoshida ran out of his quarters to cut the chain on my bunker. And by that time, he was getting ready to do that honorable suicide. Then the flash went off, and I grabbed Yoshida. We went back to the bottom of my bunker, and I saved his life. All the skin was burned from my body, but I survived. Some years later, he would come back to try to take the adamantium from my bones. That's not a real story. I just gave you the opening plot of Wolverine. I'm a character. I'm just a goofball. I did stand-up comedy one time. But, I mean, the things that people don't know about me, they can fit in the Grand Canyon. I'm not really that much of a mystery, or I try not to be. I'm one of those guys that I like to wear my heart on my sleeve. I show you who I am all the time. Unless you really piss me off, then I just have to be that professional. Then I just bite my lip and walk away. But I mean, I'm just a guy who loves wrestling, who loves his kids, and loves living a simple life. Like I said, I'm a Star Wars nerd. This interview almost happened in front of my Star Wars collection. But I figured it was wrestling, so this was the proper spot. Say hi, Stone Cold. Guys, say hi to Stone Cold. But I'm just a big nerd. Just a big nerd. Guy who loves wrestling and engaging in lightsaber combat every now and again with the Mandalorian helmet.
Nice. Is there anything you want to promote that's coming up? I know you promoted some.
Yeah, let's run them down. April 22nd in Orange, California. My client, Rillo Wolf, a destructive force of nature that doesn't take no for an answer, will go one-on-one with Relentless Pro Wrestling's chosen hero, Biggie Biggs. It's a Herculean feat that you're taking on, Biggie, when my monolith rolls to tear down the empire Relentless Pro Wrestling is trying to build. Then April 29th, Valor Pro Wrestling presents 92345 second attempt. We're going to be at VFW Hall 2924 in Hesperia, California. The likes of Principe Leon, who will be a guest on this show. God King, Aiden Wade, Noah Anderson, TWE Champion Inferno, JF 3000, Dreamy Drew, the Lizard King, Legendaro Sebastian, and making his return to the high desert, Oh So Cali. Tickets are still available. After that, we have Squared Circle Society. The Sounds of Pain will be taking on the God King and a partner of his choosing. We are here to make a statement at Square Circle Society, and as I stated before, we are going to take the tag team gold and more if we want. Following that, May 21st, Compton Mania all the way live. Card to be announced. Monday night Compton Mania will be giving you more information this Monday. Then May 27th, Valor Pro Wrestling returns to the high desert. More information to be announced on that show as it comes. Oh, and don't let me forget, July 1st, Amped Up Wrestling returns to Inglewood, California with the Sounds of Pain. I felt like Max Bedroom doing that, like meow, meow, meow.
No, you're good. So we want to thank you for being on. You're welcome back anytime. So, just let us know.
Just have some almond milk and some double mega stuffed Oreos ready for me.
Sounds good. We can make that happen.
And normally I take us out, but Mr. Triple M, I'd love to give that honor to you. Will you take us out today?
I sure will. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Live from the Chair and an effort to control the pet population. Please spay or neuter your ex.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.